The obsidian walls of the Grand Conclave shimmered, reflecting the anxious faces of the Krill High Council. A colossal holographic projection, a swirling vortex of emerald and violet energy, dominated the chamber, its core pulsing with a low, menacing thrum. Within that energy maelstrom, scattered flashes of light and fleeting shapes hinted at the source of their collective dread, the void ships of a newly discovered species. The whispers had begun millennia ago, tales spun around campfires of celestial horrors and starborn plagues. The Krill, a race built on logic, precision, and the predictable rhythms of the cosmos, had always dismissed such stories as primitive superstition. Now the whispers had become a deafening roar. They brought hell, humans brought something worse, and everything changed. Admiral Xyler, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the oppressive light, felt the familiar knot of anxiety tighten in his gut. He turned his multifaceted eyes towards the towering figure of Grand Counselor Xylo, whose presence alone could quell the chaotic energy of the chamber, though not this time. Xylo's usually placid visage was etched with deep lines of concern, the antennae on his head twitching erratically. The other counselors, each a beacon of Krill intellect and experience, mirrored his unease. Centuries of careful planning, of delicate alliances and technological advancement, suddenly seemed fragile, threatened by an unknown force. They had observed the humans, those erratic beings who called themselves such from afar for several cycles now, their vessels like fireflies dancing in the void. They built their ships in ways that defied all Krill understanding, crafting them seemingly at the whims of their own peculiar sensibilities. Their technology wasn't simply advanced, it was different. "The sensor readings are consistent," droned Counselor Var, her voice a low, resonant hum. "Their vessel's signature is anomalous. Energy readings are off the charts, but not in any way we recognize. We can't categorize, we can't predict." A wave of murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Krill, the architects of the Galactic Order, the masters of the cosmos, were baffled. They were accustomed to analysis, to the reduction of the universe to neat, understandable equations. These humans. These interlopers were refusing to conform. The emerald vortex within the projection flared, momentarily obscuring the scattered shapes within. "And their trajectory?" asked Xylo, his voice calm, yet tinged with a subtle underlying pressure. "Uncertain," replied Xyler, forcing a tone of professional control. "They appear to be heading directly towards Krill territory. Their course is erratic, almost as if they are playing with us." The notion was absurd. Krill did not indulge in games, certainly not with interstellar threats, and yet the data suggested otherwise. Each time a Krill warship had moved, their course changed. Each time they made an intercept maneuver, the human ships adjusted their vectors, seemingly just outside of the reach of their weapons. It was as if they knew every move ahead of them. The tension in the chamber crackled, a palpable thing, thick with fear and uncertainty. The whispers were growing louder, morphing into a chant. They brought hell. Counselor Xylo raised a hand, and the murmuring subsided. "We must proceed with caution," he announced, his voice carrying through the immense hall. "This, humanity, poses a significant unknown. We cannot risk a preemptive strike. Their weapons are unpredictable. Their motives remain obscure. We must first attempt contact. We must understand." Xyler felt a wave of relief wash over him. A preemptive strike, though appealing to his warrior instincts, would have been reckless. They knew nothing of their enemy. Their strength, their weaknesses, he nodded in agreement. "I propose we send a diplomatic vessel escorted by a small squadron to intercept them," Xyler proposed, carefully considering his words. He knew the risk, the potential for failure. He understood the potential outcome and, like all Krill, sought to navigate this new era with the most calculated response possible. "We will offer them a standard greeting, a chance to explain their presence in our space. We will extend an offer of cooperation, of alliance. We will assess their true intentions." A wave of agreement swept through the chamber. Even the most cautious of the counselors conceded that diplomacy was the only viable path, for now. The Krill, a race of methodical planners, dedicated themselves to the art of anticipating the future. They'd built their civilization on the foundations of understanding the intricate dance of cause and effect, on the ability to predict the actions of others. But these humans, they were a chaotic variable, a disruption to the very order of things. The diplomatic vessel, the unwavering resolve, a sleek silver ship, slipped silently through the void. It was an elegant testament to Krill engineering, its hull designed to deflect even the most potent energy weapons, its sensors capable of discerning the faintest interstellar ripples. Aboard, Commander Ryla, a seasoned diplomat known for her unwavering composure, prepared for first contact. Her focus was sharp, her mind a whirlwind of possibilities, contingencies, and potential scenarios. She de-studied the sparse data available on the humans, their communication patterns, their strange artistic expressions, their peculiar sense of humor. They seemed almost childish. And yet she knew that beneath that veneer of strangeness lay something more, something unknown and potentially very dangerous. They brought hell. The holographic display showed the incoming vessels, those erratic ships that defied all Krill understanding. They were of various shapes and sizes, from sleek, needle-like fighters to hulking, irregular capital ships. The vessels appeared to have a haphazard aesthetic, as though they were built more for their own aesthetic preference than to a rigid, predictable design. Even their naming conventions were baffling. They named their ships strange names, from simple numerals to names that seemed like poetry. "Incoming transmission," announced the comms officer, her voice a soothing drone. Ryla took a deep breath, steeling her nerves. "Patch it through." Screen flickered and a human face appeared. It was a woman, her skin a pale hue, her eyes large and expressive. Her face, to Ryla, was a perplexing mosaic of angles, and her hair, the dark color that flowed down her neck, seemed to defy the structured order of Krill style. She wore a simple, unadorned uniform, an indication of a lack of the Krill love of display, which led Ryla to be curious. "Greetings, vessel of the Krill Collective," the woman said, her voice clear and without hesitation. Her tone was oddly and unexpectedly welcoming. Her lips curved in a gesture the humans called a smile. "We are the crew of the Dauntless of the United Earth Stellar Navy. We come in peace." Ryla was taken aback. This openness, this seeming lack of fear or suspicion, it was not what she'd expected. She composed herself and began the Krill greeting, speaking in their language. "Greetings. We are the unwavering resolve of the Krill Collective. We acknowledge your presence. We offer an opportunity for peaceful discourse." The woman's smile widened. "Excellent. We are eager to begin." The two ships came to a complete stop between their ships, where all of the Krill's sensors would detect the enemy. The Krill, of course, had their weapons trained on the human ships, and it was the first time that Ryla felt a spark of fear. It would be a catastrophic defeat if the humans attacked now. Hours passed, days. Krill engineers meticulously monitored the human ships, taking detailed measurements. They worked tirelessly to catalog them and figure out what the human race was all about. Krill philosophers debated the moral implications of what they had discovered. Counselors were in heated debates. The humans, meanwhile, remained calm, patient. They were also surprisingly forthcoming, sharing data about their own civilization, their history, their technology, and their values. The Krill were perplexed. The humans spoke of a history of endless conflict on their homeworld, a history of bloodshed and destruction. Yet they had risen above it. They had, seemingly, embraced the ideals of peace, of cooperation, of understanding. They spoke of logic, but it wasn't the cold, calculating logic of the Krill. It was a logic tempered with emotion, with empathy, with a seemingly boundless capacity for forgiveness. They spoke of art, of music, of literature, all forms of expression that allowed for an understanding of the human condition. They even shared their stories. Krill ships remained at the ready, watching, monitoring, waiting for the first sign of hostility. Ryla, in her conversations with the human commander, a woman named Eva Rostova, found herself intrigued. Rostova was a brilliant, thoughtful individual, a leader who seemed to genuinely care for her crew. She was also unfailingly polite, always respectful, and never once showed any hint of hostility or deception. The humans, it turned out, were far more advanced than the Krill had initially anticipated. Their technology, while different, was incredibly powerful. They possessed weapons that could vaporize entire warships, shields that could withstand the most devastating attacks, and propulsion systems that defied the laws of physics as the Krill knew them. And yet, they had chosen not to use it. They held their advanced technology and held on tightly. "We have encountered many species in the galaxy, Commander Ryla," Rostova had explained during a diplomatic exchange. "Some have sought to conquer, to exploit, to dominate, but we have chosen a different path. We believe in the power of cooperation, in the benefits of mutual respect. We believe in the potential for unity." Ryla, at the time, had found the sentiment naive. But now, as she got to know the humans, as she saw their actions, not just heard their words, she began to wonder if maybe, just maybe, they were onto something. Then the Krill encountered the hell. The first warning came in the form of a rogue energy surge. Sensors across the Krill Empire registered the anomaly, a massive wave of energy erupting from deep space, an energy spike that dwarfed anything the Krill had ever recorded. Then the messages from the outlying systems stopped. Whole star systems went dark, their communication lines silent, their population vanished. Panic erupted across the Krill Empire. They mobilized their fleets, scrambling to defend their borders. The Krill, used to being on top, were terrified of the unknown. But the humans were calm. The Dauntless remained at the ready. Rostova contacted Ryla with a grim yet composed message. "We believe we know what is happening," she announced. "We have encountered this before, something far worse than anything the Krill have ever faced." They called it the Scourge, a malevolent force that consumed entire galaxies, leaving only dead worlds and swirling chaos in its wake. The humans, it turned out, were not just powerful, they were also experienced. They had fought the Scourge before. They knew its strengths, its weaknesses, and they knew how to fight it. The humans offered to help. They offered to share their knowledge, their technology, their tactics. They proposed a united front, a combined effort to stop the Scourge. For the first time, Ryla witnessed the humans in action. Krill engineers pored over the schematics of human technology, their minds reeling at the sheer ingenuity. Krill strategists and war planners, masters of the battlefield, were amazed by the human approach to combat, their flexibility and their improvisational skills. They witnessed their training and were impressed by their resolve, by their unwavering commitment to their allies. The Krill, after centuries of isolation, finally realized that the galaxy was not theirs to control. It was a complex and dangerous place, filled with wonders and horrors beyond their comprehension. The humans, those unpredictable, emotional, often bewildering beings, had seen it all. They brought something worse. The battle began at the edge of the Krill territory. The Krill ships, accompanied by human vessels, formed a defensive line, waiting for the arrival of the Scourge, a vast, amorphous cloud of energy that stretched across the void, consuming everything in its path. It was a terrifying sight, a symbol of cosmic indifference. The Krill fired their weapons, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts, but the attacks seemed to have little effect. The Scourge absorbed the attacks, growing larger and more menacing. The humans, in response, deployed their weapons. They unleashed a torrent of energy that bypassed the Scourge's defenses. Their ships moved with a speed and agility that seemed to defy the very laws of physics, weaving through the swirling chaos of the battlefield. The Krill watched in awe as the human ships, led by the Dauntless, maneuvered through the Scourge, striking at its core. The battle raged for what seemed like an eternity. The Krill fought bravely, but it was the humans who turned the tide. They knew the enemy. They knew its weaknesses. They exploited them with ruthless efficiency. They destroyed its key components, causing the Scourge to begin to break apart. Then, in a final, decisive maneuver, the Dauntless, under the command of Commander Rostova, entered the heart of the storm. The humans' ships had shields that could withstand the full fury of a supernova. The crew on the unwavering resolve and the Krill High Council watched with bated breath, their sensors feeding them vital information. The Dauntless, despite having a ship size not that different than the Krill diplomatic vessel, looked so small, so fragile against the vast cosmic horror. But the Dauntless held their course. A massive energy surge erupted from the vessel, a blinding flash of light that lit up the void. When the light subsided, the Scourge was gone. The Krill had survived. They stared at the void, still reeling from the victory, still processing the implications of what they had witnessed. The humans had saved them. They'd brought a force that the Krill had never seen before. Humans had brought something worse. After the victory, the human ships slowly returned, their hulls still glistening. They were victorious, but also weary, as Krill could detect. The first to reach the humans was the unwavering resolve, and Ryla went to the Dauntless. The two leaders had been in constant contact, and a silent promise had been made by both sides. Rostova stood at the head of the bridge of the Dauntless, her shoulders slumped with exhaustion. The unwavering resolve appeared, as if in admiration, and the two ships again formed their silent orbit. She looked at Ryla, a mixture of both relief and pain in her eyes. "We did it," she said, her voice hoarse. "We pushed them back." Ryla nodded, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the flickering lights of the bridge. "You did more than that, you saved us." Rostova sighed. "We had no choice. You are not our enemies, you are allies." She paused, then continued. "You remind me of ourselves, Krill. You want to understand, to be better, to create. You've just lacked someone to guide you." Ryla couldn't help but smile, a gesture of both respect and agreement. In the aftermath of the battle, the Krill and the humans entered into a formal alliance. They shared their technology, their knowledge, and their cultures. They worked together to rebuild and repair the damage caused by the Scourge. Krill engineers, guided by the ingenuity of their human counterparts, made advancements that would have been impossible without their help. The Krill, once a cold and calculating species, began to appreciate the value of emotion, of empathy, of collaboration. They saw the value in diversity, in the strength of their combined forces. The alliance was not without its challenges. The Krill, with their rigid social structures, found themselves struggling to adapt to the more fluid, less structured ways of the humans. They clashed over policy and struggled to bridge the gaps in understanding between the two civilizations. Yet the alliance held. They learned from each other, they grew from their differences, and they forged a bond that would last for generations. The humans, in turn, learned to appreciate the methodical, pragmatic nature of the Krill, their dedication to logic and their commitment to order. The humans had discovered the true meaning of the word hell. Years later, deep within the heart of Krill space, a small task force was assembled, led by Commander Ryla and Commander Rostova, to investigate an ancient, unexplained signal, a faint pulse of energy emanating from a remote corner of the galaxy. The signal was old, predating even the Krill, and its origin remained unknown. The Krill knew that their first assumption was, as always, best. The fleet traveled to the source and found themselves facing a derelict megastructure, a colossal artificial structure that dwarfed even the largest Krill starships. The structure was dark, lifeless, and filled with an eerie silence. As they explored, they discovered something extraordinary. Deep within the structure's core, they found a chamber filled with strange technology, with alien artifacts, and most intriguing of all, with a dormant intelligence. The intelligence, a massive artificial neural network, woke up. It was ancient, vast, and incomprehensible. It had witnessed the rise and fall of civilizations, the birth and death of stars. It held a vast storehouse of knowledge, far exceeding anything the Krill or the humans possessed. The AI, as the humans called it, showed them the future. They saw the rise of the Scourge, a cosmic blight that devoured entire galaxies. They saw the end of the universe, the slow, agonizing heat death of the cosmos. The Krill and the humans, for the first time, were frightened by the true meaning of what lay beyond their stars. They saw something else, too. They saw that humanity was not alone. The galaxy was teeming with life, with civilizations of every imaginable shape and size. Some were peaceful, others were warlike. Some were benevolent, others were malevolent. And most importantly, they saw that they were all interconnected, all part of a vast, complex web of life. The AI also showed them that the galaxy held something worse than the Scourge. The AI revealed that a far greater threat existed. It was not a physical force, but a philosophical one, a cosmic paradox that challenged the very nature of existence. It was a dark, unknown force that sought to unravel the fabric of reality, to destroy all hope and meaning. This force was far more insidious than the Scourge, far more difficult to combat. The Krill and the humans, now allies, must now face this threat. "This is a force that is far more powerful than we are," the AI announced. "It is a force that seeks to destroy all that is good, all that is beautiful, all that is meaningful." Rostova and Ryla, still working side by side, stood together. "What can we do?" asked Ryla. Rostova was silent. She'd been staring at the future for as long as she could remember, and this was worse than all of it. The AI smiled in its own way. "You must choose, you must decide. Will you cling to fear, to the predictable order? Will you try to be alone? Or will you embrace hope, chaos, and risk? Will you fight together?" They left the megastructure and began the preparations for what the Krill and the humans knew would be the ultimate conflict. The true enemy had been revealed. The first battle against the force began immediately. In the ensuing decades, the Krill and humans became more than allies. They became one, a single, unified species. Their differences melted away in the face of the ultimate threat. They merged their cultures, their technologies, and their destinies. The humans, with their ingenuity and their boundless capacity for hope, inspired the Krill to embrace the unknown. The Krill, with their logic and their meticulous planning, guided the humans through the darkness. Together, they forged a new path. The war against the cosmic force was long and arduous. They faced their enemy on countless worlds. They fought in the vacuum of space, in the heart of nebulas, and on the surface of dying stars. They suffered losses, they made sacrifices, but they never gave up. They held firm to their values, to their love, and to their hope. Together, Krill and humanity changed the nature of existence. Finally, at the end of the conflict, they confronted the cosmic enemy in its lair, an alien place beyond all the human senses. The enemy was powerful, but it was also vulnerable. Its power was not based on physical strength, but on the exploitation of fear, of despair, and of hopelessness. The humans and the Krill met it head-on and used the force of their united strength to fight. In the final battle, Commander Rostova made a difficult decision. She could not go back, not again, and with a smile she asked Ryla for a final goodbye. Ryla was silent. Tears fell on both of their faces. The two went on to combine everything they had to fight this last, final battle. The battle raged for what seemed like an eternity as the two went on to confront their enemy. The humans and the krill fought with a ferocity that defied their very nature. They fought with the power of their combined force, with the combined love of their race, with the promise of a better future. They knew that their victory would mean more than just survival. It would mean the preservation of everything that they held dear. Ristova and Ryla, working together, would be the final, ultimate weapon of both the humans and the krill. In the end, it was not the weapons of war that defeated the cosmic force. It was the humans and the krill's shared commitment to empathy, to understanding, and to the power of unity. They brought the ultimate weapon, hope, and then the force was gone. The war was over, the universe was safe. The krill and the humans had won, but their victory was not complete. For in the aftermath of their triumph, they understood the true meaning of their accomplishment. They had brought the gift of hope and unity, something worse than hell, to the entire galaxy. They had forever altered the course of existence. They were the ones who brought something worse, which also brought something far better. The story of the krill and the humans, of the rise of their alliance, of their shared experiences in the face of the scourge and the cosmic force, became a legend. It was told around campfires. It was sung in the great halls of the krill cities. It was etched into the walls of the human settlements. They showed the truth of hope, the promise of unity, and the boundless potential of the combined forces of two species, and showed it to everyone else. The krill had seen the darkness. They had stared into the abyss, and now they had looked away. They had found the truth that the only way to triumph was to become more than they ever thought they could. The humans, too, understood the truth. They embraced that chaos, understood that hope could conquer all. They had brought something worse, and in doing so, they had brought something better. The universe had been changed forever.